Hey everyone, and welcome to another deep dive. Today we'll be taking a look at the life of Mother Teresa. But this isn't going to be the typical saintly story you usually hear. You've given us some really interesting stuff that suggests a hidden internal struggle going on. And I'm really interested to unpack it all with you today.
Yeah, Mother Teresa is often seen as this beacon of unwavering faith, but the reality, as we'll see, is much more complex and honestly much more human.
It's kind of crazy when you think about it.
Mm.
To give your whole life to a cause because of faith, only to then find yourself wrestling with doubt. It's intense, and we've got a lot to cover today. But first, let's start with the basics, just to give some context. Mother Teresa was born Agnes Gongsa Bojaxiu in 1910, and she really went on a journey to become this iconic figure we know today. At just 18, she joined a convent and eventually ended up teaching in Calcutta. And it's really important to understand Calcutta in the mid-20th century. The setting's really crucial here.
Oh, absolutely. The setting is so important when you're trying to understand Mother Teresa. Imagine this. The last pieces of colonial grandeur existing alongside just crushing poverty and suffering. This stark contrast is the backdrop of Mother Teresa's life, and it really shaped her path.
Wow, yeah, I can see that. Okay, so now for the real turning point. It's 1946, and Mother Teresa is on a train to Darjeeling. Sounds like a movie, right? This is where she experiences what she calls her call within a call, a huge moment for her that just completely changes the direction of her life.
Right.
It's this experience that makes her want to dedicate herself to serving the poorest of the poor, which ultimately leads her to create the Missionaries of Charity, an order dedicated entirely to helping those in the most desperate situations. Can you imagine feeling such a strong conviction? Like you just know so deeply that you have to dedicate your life to it.
Yeah, it really makes you think. This wasn't just some fleeting feeling she had, it was a total shift in who she was. But this is where things get really interesting, even a bit unsettling, I'd say. Because despite her dedication to this calling, her diaries and letters tell a different story, one we don't often hear about.
So we have Mother Teresa dedicating her life to the poor. She founds the Missionaries of Charity, builds homes for the dying. But behind this public image of unwavering faith, a different picture emerges when you read her personal writings.
Yeah, it's striking how honest she is in her diaries and letters. She talks about this deep feeling of distance from God, like a darkness she's wrestling with. There's even this one part where she writes, "Where is my faith? Even deep within me, there is nothing but emptiness and darkness." Really powerful stuff.
It's heavy stuff, and it makes you wonder, how can someone be so devoted on the outside,
Yeah.
but feel such doubt on the inside? It's something that I think we can all relate to on some level, even if our doubts aren't quite so, extreme.
For sure. It really shows how complex we are as humans, this contradiction between her outer devotion and inner turmoil. It raises all sorts of questions. One interpretation is that Mother Teresa could have been experiencing what's called the dark night of the soul. Have you ever heard of that?
I have, but I'm not sure I really get it.
So it's often described as a time of serious spiritual doubt, feeling cut off from God, basically. But this is important. It's not always seen as a bad thing, more like a phase of spiritual growth, a kind of purification that could actually lead to a stronger faith.
So it's possible her doubt actually shows how deep her faith was.
Mm.
Like she was willing to confront the hardest questions, even when it hurt.
Exactly. Now, there are other interpretations, of course. Some scholars think that all the suffering she saw, day in and day out, I mean, just constant poverty and death, that it may have led to compassion fatigue or burnout, even.
Yeah, that would make sense. Being surrounded by that much pain every day, it's got to take a toll.
It really does. And that leads to another interesting idea that might help us understand Mother Teresa's struggles. Schmidt transference.
Right, you mentioned that earlier. Can you tell us a little more about it?
Of course. Basically, Schmidt transference is the idea that we sometimes channel our unresolved childhood pain, and we channel it into our work without realizing it.
So you're saying there could be a connection between Mother Teresa's childhood and her work in Calcutta?
Possibly. She lost her father when she was pretty young. That kind of loss on top of the intensity of her work, it could have all gotten tangled up together and contributed to her feeling so empty and lost.
Wow, it's sad to think about. But it helps us understand her better. Even someone as revered as Mother Teresa was still human, shaped by their past and dealing with their own inner struggles. It's pretty amazing when you think about it. We tend to put people like Mother Teresa on a pedestal and only see the good they do. But when you learn about their struggles, like how she felt so empty even while she was helping others, it makes her story even more powerful, more relatable too.
It really does. It reminds us that everyone feels doubt and pain.
Even Mother Teresa.
Exactly. Maybe that's part of what makes us human, that ability to connect with each other over our shared struggles.
Yeah, and we can't forget the impact she had. Her legacy is incredible. The missionaries of charity ended up including hundreds of hospitals and orphanages all over the world, not to mention homes for the dying. And then there's the Nobel Peace Prize she won in 1979. She became a global symbol of compassion and charity.
Right, and it's a legacy that still inspires people.
Definitely.
But as we've seen, her story is complicated. It makes us rethink what faith is and doubt, and what really motivates people to help others. What are your thoughts on all of this?
Well, it makes me think that even when we're struggling with our own problems, we can still make a difference in the world.
That's a really great point.
It's inspiring.
It really is. Mother Teresa's life had it all, ups and downs, contradictions. But ultimately, it shows the power of human connection, the inherent dignity we all have, and how much we're capable of even in the darkest times.
Yeah, it's a lot to think about. Mother Teresa's story isn't just about her life. It's about all of us, about what it means to be human.
I think so too. And it leaves us with this question. If Mother Teresa is someone so devoted to her faith, if she could struggle with doubt, what does that tell us about our capacity for belief and uncertainty?
It's definitely something to think about. Thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive. It was really eye-opening. And if you're as interested in Mother Teresa's life as we are, we encourage you to read more about her, especially her personal writings. Until next time, keep exploring, keep asking questions, and please send us your suggestions for future deep dives.